We all know that family life can be tough at times, but does the way your family behaves leave you questioning whether they even care about you? Feeling like your family ignores you, doesn't respect you, or even like your family doesn't love you is incredibly painful. Although you might feel like your family doesn't care, it's never usually that simple. There are steps you can take right now to improve family ties, so you no longer feel like a victim over how they behave. In this article, we'll run through 7 telltale signs that your family doesn't care about you and how to deal with it. Number 1, they ignore your boundaries. Boundaries are what help healthy relationships to function. Your boundaries act as your own individual set of rules. It's almost like your own private club, where the do's and don'ts are clearly laid out. Whilst it's nice to feel close to your family member, boundaries and drawing a line about what's acceptable and unacceptable is super important. Boundaries may include practical understanding about things like how often you will be in contact or visit. They can also be emotional. For example, what you decide to share with a family member or certain topics that aren't up for discussion. If your family routinely pushes or completely ignores any boundaries that you have set, it can feel like a clear sign of disrespect. Number 2, they are neglectful or abusive. Neglect and abuse comes in different forms. If a member of your family is physically abusive towards you, this is clearly unacceptable and not something you should have to deal with alone. Whilst you should always seek help and never tolerate physical abuse, it's also important to recognise verbal or emotional abuse. Constant yelling, manipulation, threats, and bullying are all signs of abuse too, which can make you feel like your family member doesn't care about you. Number 3, they always prioritise themselves and don't seem to care about what's happening in your life. Do you notice that every conversation you seem to have is always about them? Perhaps every time you meet, they talk for hours about their problems or dramas, yet take very little interest in what you're going through. Selfish family members have a habit of making everything about them without asking questions about how you are. Self-absorbed or needy people leave any relationship feeling very one-sided. Number 4, they leave you out. One of the things that may be making you feel isolated from your family is that they seem to leave you out. This can especially happen when other family members enjoy a special bond. Perhaps you've long felt that your dad and sister are like peas in a pod, and he has always preferred her. Whether you're always the last to know important information or you never get invited to family gatherings, it's difficult to feel close to someone when you feel like you're on the outside looking in. Number 5, they're always cancelling plans or letting you down. We often end up tolerating behaviour with our families that we wouldn't accept from a friend or someone we were dating. Being constantly let down at the last minute or making plans with your family only for them to back out can sting. Okay, every now and then things may happen, but if your family flakes on you on a regular basis, it signals that you are not a top priority to them, and they're willing to drop you whenever something else comes up. Now the question is, how can you deal with the fact that your family doesn't care about you? Here are some important tips. Number 1, refuse to play the victim. The funny thing about power struggles is that it always takes more than one person to create them. Often we feel at the mercy of others. We think that how we feel is an unavoidable consequence of what someone else says or does. But really, we give them this power. It is always your own mind that creates the suffering you experience. Whilst you may think that you didn't choose the role of victim in your family dynamics, that it arose from the situation, it doesn't mean you have to play that role. As soon as you stop seeing yourself as a victim, you take control back over your own emotions. Number 2, let go of the past to break patterns. Old habits die hard, and many of the destructive patterns that continue to play out in our families have been around for years, if not decades. The way you are with family members in the present might be influenced by outdated behaviours established in childhood. Toxic ways of interacting as a family are often passed down from generation to generation, keeping us stuck in cycles. Once we become aware of unhealthy patterns, we can consciously decide to break those cycles. It may mean letting go of what has happened in the past. You might need to forgive and forget, but whatever has gone before, it's important to take responsibility for ourselves in the here and now. Number 3, take the initiative to create the relationship you want. Talk is important, but so is action too. Once you've identified areas of your relationship with a family member that you wish were different, think of some practical steps you can take to change that. If you wish that you and your brother did more things together, just the two of you, plan an outing and invite him. If you want to talk more often to your dad, make a decision to call him once a week. Rather than waiting for someone else in your family to act differently, lead by example and take the initiative. There's a lot of tit for tat that goes on in relationships, but that often keeps us at a stalemate. Resist making mental tallies and keeping score over what you think is fair. I visited them 3 times in a row and they still haven't come to see me won't get you very far. For whatever reason, we don't all have the same to give in life. What matters is that you are giving what you can. The signs I'm revealing in this article will give you a good idea of why your family doesn't care about you and what you can do to deal with this. But could you get even more clarity by speaking to a real psychic? Clearly, you have to find someone you can trust. With so many fake psychics out there, it's important to have a pretty good BS detector. After going through a messy breakup myself, I recently tried Psychic Source. They provided me with the guidance I needed in life, including who I'm meant to be with and how to improve the close relationships in my life. I was actually blown away by how kind, caring and knowledgeable they were. Check out the Psychic Source in the description below to get your own psychic reading. A genuine psychic from Psychic Source can not only tell you about why things went wrong with your family, but they can also reveal all your love possibilities. Check it out in the description below and let me know what you think.